Alright, so this video is intended to talk to you and share some information about two topics: typography, text and text design, and color in terms of advertising. So to begin, you should have these pages of the packet open, beginning with the page that says fonts and typeface and print advertising, and we'll go from there. I want to start with the idea that much like clothing, typefaces can have different degrees of formality. So you can see in this video, you go from on the left, quite formal, fonts that look like Arial black, to on the far right, much more informal. What the diagram here that I didn't create says casual or party wear, fonts like Brandish. But the point is that every font, every text design has a different flavor and a different impression it leaves upon the reader. And million-dollar advertisements and their teams think very carefully about the fonts they're going to use. Just to prove that, I'd like you to try a few quick exercises for me. I'm going to show you an advertisement, and in the advertisement I have taken away the original font and put the same exact language, but this time in a different font of my own design. The first ad is a print ad for Rogaine. You probably know Rogaine as a hair growth system for men, but in some campaigns they try to appeal instead or also to women. So there was a recent Rogaine campaign called Hair Regrowth for Women, and the tagline was, "There are some places a woman does not want to be thinner." Here is the original ad as it was designed and printed. Can you take a second and in the space beneath that ad, which is also on your handout, write 3 or 4 adjectives to describe the emotions or vibes that you connect with the font that they chose. And you can pause this video and take a minute to fill that in. All right, now that you're back, I'm going to show you the adjusted or alternative version of that same ad that I made on the right, and you can see it there. Same exact message, same exact tagline and letters, words, but in a different font. It has a much different feel, it has a much different mood. Beneath that picture and those letters, can you fill in again 3 or 4 words that you would use to describe the mood, tone, or vibe created by the text here in this different font? Okay, now I did the exercises myself as I thought through it. And when I looked at the left-hand side, I thought about things like sophisticated, luxurious, feminine, and graceful. That's the vibe I got from the words on the left. Same exact words on the right, I had a quite different reaction. Thought of them as basic, common, maybe even threatening. All caps often has a threatening vibe, or gruff. And so what I'm trying to indicate, you can tell, is that the same language can communicate a quite different message depending on its font. Let's try a second example. This is an ad for Marlboro cigarettes. For many years they had a campaign featuring a Marlboro man type figure, and the slogan was, "Come to where the flavor is, come to Marlboro country." On the left hand side you see the ad as it was originally printed. Can you take a minute, pause the video, and underneath that ad put a few adjectives that you would use to describe the font that Marlboro chose? All right, now that you're back, I'm going to show you my alternate version. I used the same exact words, same exact language, but this time only adjusted the font, and I think the vibe of the ad is substantially different because of that change. Can you take a second and fill in your responsive answers for the right-hand side? What mood, tone, ideas come to mind when you look at instead that font? Now again, I did it myself. And on the left-hand side, I thought of words like sturdy, macho, certain, and seasoned. And on the right-hand side, I thought of quite different words like wobbly, juvenile, faltering, and naive. And you can tell here that one is a very intentional hope. Marlboro wants you to see them as sturdy, macho, and seasoned. It would not want you to see them as juvenile or naive. And so the text font design is an important part of the advertising total image. One last example, this is an advertisement for Calvin Klein, expensive fashion clothing. This is the image that they chose on the left-hand side. The only text this time is their brand name. But as this final example, could you take a second and develop some adjectives or tone words for that font's impression on you? And then on the right-hand side, you see my substitute alternative version. Same 2 words, but in a different font. I think the ad, because of that type, gives off a very different vibe. And here again, I've chosen some of my own words. You chose your own and wrote them down, but mine were sleek, refined, and modern, and elite, for the left-hand side, as opposed to haphazard, oafish, savage even perhaps, and casual on the right-hand side. Calvin Klein is such expensive clothing. The last thing it wants to suggest is that it's oafish or casual. It wants to be sleek and elite. And part of the way it conveys that image to the potential buyer is in its font choice. So now on the next page of the packet, there's a handful of different common fonts, and in their speech bubble is the tone that they tend to suggest. Your fonts are not going to match those exactly, but they give you a starting place. The next page of the packet is an analysis sheet for your 3 ads. It's going to ask you to give some descriptive words for the tone conveyed by the primary and secondary font in each of your ads. If your ad has more than 2 fonts, you can just skip the 3rd, 4th, 5th. But look at the 2 primary fonts, and I think the boxes are pretty self-explanatory. Adjectives or tone words to describe each of those fonts for your 3 ads. All right, so you'll want to pause the video now and do that before you move on. All right, now that we're done with typefaces, we're going to talk a little bit about colors and the color value that comes with different choices that advertisers make. The psychology of color, this image that I did not create, says that 85% of consumers say color is the primary reason they buy a particular product, which is kind of shocking. We would think it would be, perhaps cost, perhaps effectiveness, perhaps reputation, but color has a huge impact on what we buy. And different products fall into different categories in terms of the color impression. You might want to pause the video here and just take a look at all the different products and different color bars and the primary connections that color creates. Just as an example, you see red. Products like Target, Coca-Cola, CNN, and that Nintendo, that red bar, often the idea with red is to generate excitement, to convey that something is youthful and bold. But each color has its own value and emotional power, and this chart gives you a great starting place for thinking about the colors in your ad and what they might mean. Here's another chart with some other helpful tools. Again, you might want to pause this or come back to it later, but for each color option, it gives you some key words, some key vibes that color helps create. And you also see at the bottom that there's some special colors when you're targeting and avoiding offending gender groups that you might look at more carefully. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do on the next few slides, I'm going to show you on the next few slides and then ask you to do, is determine the first, second, and third most prominent color in each of your ads, and explore in words some of the connections each of those colors makes. But I think it'll be more clear if I show you. So here's an ad that I chose for McDonald's new veggie hamburgers. It says, "Make new friends, make it veggie with the new veggie patty by McDonald's." So if you look at my chart as I'm filling it out, the company's McDonald's, the product is the veggie burger, and the 3 colors, I would say brown is most prominent, then green, and then white. So I've got that part filled out. The next ad I chose for an example is for mychronicmigraine.com, a website that's intended to help people struggling with headaches. And you can see there the company is mychronicmigraine.com. The specific product is their online resources. But what I'm most interested in is color. I said blue is most prominent, then white, and then black. You might argue for black, then white. Doesn't really matter. It's those 3 colors. My last example is for New Balance sneakers. This is specifically promoting them as the official kit of Athletics Ireland. And the t-shirt she's wearing says, "Be the hunter and the hare." And here again, the New Balance is the company, the apparel is the product, and the colors I said were green, then pink, and then red. But we're looking for the 3 primary colors. So now could you pause the video and fill that out for each of your 3 ads? What's the company, what's the product, and what are the 3 primary colors, as close to order as you can in prominence. Now the next slides give you some ideas about different products that have used colors as a primary agent to think about what the colors might mean in your ad. So use of color and some examples. Purple, here's an ad that uses purple Zales diamonds. It's candy colored. Purple is often used to convey luxury, magic, or an impulsive, spontaneous thought or purchase. Blue, this is an ad for diesel jeans called Global Warming Ready. Blue is often used to convey something that is peaceful, dependable, or calming. Green, here's a World Wildlife Federation ad, and their campaign was called Before It's Too Late. Here's the image. Green is often intended to activate feelings of health, harmony, and hope. You see those there. Red, Toyo tires, a special brand of tires, and the ad campaign was called Gripping Performance. There's the ad. Red is often used or intended to use to connect to being reliable, established, or strong. Pink, an ad for Turkish Airlines called Love Will Surround the World, and here's the ad. Often pink is used to generate feelings of romance, nostalgia, or a soothing vibe. Yellow, an ad for the YMCA called Play Healthier. Here's the ad. And you can see kind of the joke of the ad is that video games are not healthy and actual action and movement is. Yellow is often used to convey optimism, good cheer, and respectability. Orange, a car called the Toyota Verso. The campaign was called the best family car for the best family dad. Here's the ad. But orange, you can see this is a good example of how it's used to project friendliness, cheerfulness, or good confidence. Black, an ad for Gucci, a premier perfume. There's the ad, but it gives the general vibe of black is often something that's exclusive, glamorous, or sophisticated. Finally, brown, Apayha Yoga Center, anti-stress yoga. There's the ad. But what it conveys is the common idea that brown is used to get at feelings of something being natural, wholesome, or simple in a positive way. White Swatch watches, there's the ad. White is often about, and we connect it with Apple because of this, something that is sleek and modern and clean. And finally, gray, Land Rover, the adventurous businessman is back is the name of the campaign. Here's the ad. You can see the idea is that Land Rover customers are the types that crawl up the walls instead of taking the elevator. Gray is often used as something that's bland and calm and conservative so that you can contrast it with something brightly colorful as they do in this image. All right, so now what I'd like you to do is finish your chart. You can use words that I've introduced in this presentation, or I also linked a handout with a whole another set of color connections. But the point is I'd like you to have 3 emotional color connections for each of your 3 primary colors, so your chart will look like mine there. I've filled it out with my ads, and that's what I'd like you to do with yours and have that ready when we meet again next time. That's the end of this video. I hope it's been clear and helpful. I'd welcome your questions if you have them.